My name is John Hernandez, and I am a former member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. After I resigned from the PSL on September 2012, I felt a heavy void and resentment for months, but on some level I still believed that they cared about people, just that their concern for our people, the working class, was far secondary to fundraising. But after what I found out about them recently, even that belief had completely collapsed. On August 2012, Brock Lindsey, an AWOL soldier, made his anti-war stance public on the March Forward website, one of the many fronts for the PSL. Kevin Baker, an Iraq war veteran and former PSL member who was active within March Forward, pushed the party to set up a donation page to help him out with his legal fees, believing that the experienced staff would have it taken care of. It wasn't until after another veteran and a friend of Kevin's who had donated $250 to that campaign had inquired about the results, and Kevin found out that the soldier who had gone AWOL and represented this front group did not receive a dime from the party. Kevin actually verified this when asking Lindsey himself, and he confirmed that he had never received anything from them. Here's the PSL saying that they were organizing veterans against war, then exploiting their names and faces for their own ends, as well as exploiting veterans who are trying to support each other. When I found out, I was shocked. I thought that they were just tacky and disproportionately focused on fundraising. Seeing them block marches just to ask for donations would make me cringe, but I didn't think that they would stoop that low. But it did get me to reevaluate more of my past experiences with the party. Experiences that I had been suspicious about suddenly started added up. It turned out that this was not new for the party. I remember being in the PSL office when Doug Kaufman had a conversation with Ian Thompson, a Central Committee member, telling him how ridiculous it was that they were being told by Jeremy Marx's legal team to take down the donation page. Doug had told Ian that the lawyer was asking where the money was going. He laughed and said to Ian, "To Jeremy Marx's legal defense. It's going to them. Where else would it go?" Asshole. I wonder how that conversation would have really been handled by both of those leading members had I, a new member at the time, not been within hearing distance just a few feet away. A few months later, on the day of the annual Cuba-themed Noche Cubana fundraiser for the Los Angeles branch of the A.N.S.W.E.R coalition, there were problems accessing records of people who had already paid their registration fees online, including me. To prove that I had paid in advance, I forwarded the automated email confirmation from Convio, the web host for most of the A.N.S.W.E.R coalition and PSL pages. I forwarded that email confirmation to Ian the next day and also mentioned that the message on the website had said, "Thank you for donating to the Jeremy Marx Defense Committee Fund." His response was, "Therein lies the problem. I tied it to Jeremy Marx. Thanks, John." I just thought it was nothing more than some minor technical incompetence. Now it all makes sense. No matter what donation campaign they organize, the money doesn't get distributed separately in any meaningful way. I mean, all PSL members know that A.N.S.W.E.R coalition is a front group, but for PSL, but I don't think any of us really believe that that all of our work is pretty much a lie. It was emotionally a hard realization to come to grips with, but on an intellectual level, the conclusion made perfect sense. The only times funds were distributed separately were when we organized events for high-profile guest speakers like Ava Gollinger. Yeah, she's too big to scam. And for splitting it between the local and national funds, such as special events like the 2010 National Conference on Socialism. We're not scamming Brian Becker, he's God. I also remembered a donation campaign for a new March Forward National Veterans Center initiated around late 2011. There was no new March Forward office, even though Doug ridiculously said there was on a public forum speech. So where did the money go? The general PSL/A.N.S.W.E.R fund as usual. Was there even a spike in March Forward activity? Maybe increased articles at least? Not during the early months of 2012. I also recently found out from another former member who had inquired about that donation campaign when it was ongoing, and discovered that there was never any intent to launch a new Veterans Center in the first place. It was not simply a donation campaign with a failed donation goal. They never had any desire to help anti-war veterans in the first place. I couldn't stop thinking about Ian's message after what Kevin had told me about the exploited AWOL soldier. So I contacted Rochelle Pittman, Jeremy Marks' mother. She was diplomatic yet honest in her response. She expressed gratitude towards those who showed solidarity with her in the courtroom and sat with her and her family, but she told the truth and stated that she never received a dime from the A.N.S.W.E.R coalition. She was aware of the donation page, so she asked them for money to help pay for her son's legal defense, and his lawyer, Mark Ravis of Ravis and Travis, had set up a special account for A.N.S.W.E.R to submit donations, but still not one dime was received. She had asked Doug Kaufman, who had been in charge of most of PSL/A.N.S.W.E.R's anti-police brutality work in Southern California. He told her that the money raised was for rent-a-car, gas, posters, t-shirts, and stickers. I didn't volunteer every day, but my membership was active enough to realize that those were lies. If a staffer's car was unavailable, they just got another comrade to drive them, or they just didn't leave the office. They were pretty shitty at adapting. We also didn't make or buy posters and stickers unless it was for a big event we were organizing, like the Iraq War anniversary marches or one of our many socialism conferences. Even if it was true, no one who is donating to something called Jeremy Marks Defense Committee Fund thinks that that is where their money is going. This was a case that got international attention, and we used it to exploit this young man and his family until his case was no longer useful as a campaign to exploit for our own finances. A young African American being charged with lynching for recording police brutality should be seen as an injustice, but for A.N.S.W.E.R, they see dollar signs. It makes me sick to my stomach to realize that my labor and monthly dues were exploited to contribute to such a shitty and exploitative organization. Socialists often create front groups that have committee in their names, but the Jeremy Marks Defense Committee Fund has a certain official sound to it that reeks of intent to deceive. They lied for donations, which is essentially stealing, and even worse, from our own people. Returning to the subject of March Forward fundraising, Francis VR, a former Central Committee member, has said that one of the motivating factors for her resignation was a new fundraising initiative to exploit dying anti-war veterans through a campaign that PSL and March Forward leading member Michael Preisner would take on. They had decided to initiate a campaign to promote getting March Forward members and supporters to put March Forward in their wills to get money for the party. Whether a dying anti-war veteran actually wanted to financially support a socialist party as their dying wish was inconsequential. I can only deduce that whatever financial success from that campaign they hoped for was minimal or not realized quickly enough, because there is now a publicly accessible webpage called Bequests for the A.N.S.W.E.R Coalition. Now you don't have to be a veteran to get manipulated for money. They're offering equal opportunity exploitation now. On that page, they urge people to put the A.N.S.W.E.R Coalition in their will if they have stocks, bonds, or IRAs that they would like to donate upon their deaths. They even encourage supporters to let them know if there was a specific cause or area of work they would like their legacy to go to. Speaking from experience, that's some bullshit. They'll distribute money to whatever resources the Brian Becker / Richard Becker / Gloria La Riva triumvirate or their loyal and trusted proxies deem worthy of preserving. Donations will go to whatever the needs are at the moment, whether it's rent for a party office or a staffer's salary. The donor's wishes are of no concern. Marxists are often critical towards the non-profit industrial complex and how much of that money just goes to overhead. But how do we not take the same firm position against our own allies when we find out that not most, but all of the donations go to overhead or staff salaries? Don't be fooled. The funds do not get distributed separately on an issue basis at all. These are only a few examples of corruption within the party. Some suspicions and stories I was told were simple to verify, but unfortunately I must keep quiet about some other damning information I was told due to reliable sources being scared or simply wanting to move on. I mean, let's face it, PSL has been shrinking for years. I can understand how most people may feel like it's just not worth attacking. Regardless, this is a near decade-old party, and the information revealed here is only from a few years of membership. How many more skeletons do you think they might have in the closet? If you're a current member, you know in your heart that I'm right. Muna Kupti, another Central Committee member based in Los Angeles, gave us financial records on paper square cutouts that were the size of Post-it notes, but we were only allowed to look at it, but not keep it. This was, of course, for the purposes of party security. Which members does such a policy protect? What kind of example of accountability is that? We didn't get these reports on a regular basis. We would only get that type of information during fall/winter 2011 when it was first revealed to us that the branch was in a financial crisis, and we found out that our branch debts outweighed the funds generated, and we needed to be subsidized by the National Fund. When I quit on September 2012, the branch was still not able to financially sustain itself, even after the pity donations and insurance money resulting from supposedly getting their office robbed by rogue cops. Whatever, fuck you guys. When the main party leader, Brian Becker, visited Los Angeles twice for internal meetings about our finances, he brought up the specific example of the Bolsheviks doing the unpopular thing and robbing trains to fund the revolution. Why would he use that specific example to instill a greater urgency towards fundraising? Why multiple times? Don't for a second believe this is just a branch problem.
Under other conditions, you know, the Bolsheviks in 1907 robbing trains when there was a period of they couldn't organize mass demos. It was a period of reaction. They had no money. They robbed trains. They got a very bad reputation in the movement because people had become bandits and thieves. And Lenin said, no, let's rob those trains. We need the money. But anyway, by the way, when the movement did come back in 1911, when the gold miners struck the Lena gold field, the Bolsheviks, who had been a very tiny party because they had accumulated a lot of money doing those kind of things in 1907, 1908, they became the largest party.